This is Thinking Out Loud, and I'm Joanie. Now, the video is called 10 Hours of Walking in NYC as a Woman, and it shows the harassment that a woman faces walking the streets of New York. Now, most of the men who street harass, catcall, yell, and follow the woman are colored, or men of color, black and Latinos. And that's perfectly fine. Now, I'm not going to talk about, the politics behind the video, the fact that you see that this is happening in certain neighborhoods, like maybe Harlem and other places like that. I'm not going to talk about that stretch of the video, even though I have talked to people about that, about this video, and some say that this is very true. Others say that this is not true. This wouldn't happen if they shot it, say, maybe in the financial district, some regions of the Bronx, or, just some other areas, like, yeah. So, yeah. Now, I watched the video, and it's supposed to be 10 hours, but it's a 3-minute video. So, obviously, they cut out a lot of things that were happening. But as I was watching the video, there were some parts that I can attest to. Like, I can totally believe that. I'm totally on the choir side on this one. Now, the catcallers, the catcalls, I mean, they're cool. I'll be honest with you. Personally, the catcalls don't bother me. Okay? The catcalls like, hi, how you doing? You look great today. All that stuff, that's perfectly fine, because why not? It assures a nicer world for both you and me if we all can take that time to point out what somebody did right. However, there were parts of the video that did kind of scare me, and I can actually relate to it. Now, there were some scenes in the video where you have a guy walking with this woman who was dressed in all black. She had on some black jeans and a black crew neck t-shirt. And she was just walking, and there were some of these guys, they were doing the usual, hey babe, how you doing? You looking good, nice, the typical stuff. You, as a woman, you probably experienced it before. But here's my thing. Sometimes there are some compliments that are fine, but then there are other compliments. I don't know how this happened. I don't know when this became okay. That just freaked me out. For instance, there was this one part of the video where there was this guy. He was literally walking next to her, to the woman in the video, for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Okay, for quite a few minutes. He was just walking next to her. He wasn't saying anything. They were just walking, both looking straight ahead. Now, as a woman, I've actually had that experience happen quite a few times. And it's kind of a scary experience. I mean, you try your very best to, shake guys that are trying to talk to you. And some guys are, for the lack of a better term, they're hard-headed, and they just can't take a hint. Like, they'll walk with you. You could totally have the resting bitch face. If you don't know what the resting bitch face is, it's basically that permanent scowl that some men say, oh, you need to smile. Like, sometimes you don't have a reason to smile. And we'll get to that in a minute. Now, he's walking with her for quite a while, and it's kind of scary. I know I've had that happen to me, where it's just a guy will just walk with you for like 2 blocks, and you're trying really hard to shake them, but they just can't get that clue. Until you finally just do something that'll make them, you just take a detour or something. That's always scary when they grab at your arm or your wrist, trying to talk to you. And it's like, now you're just encroaching on personal space. It's one thing if you're at a distance, like let's say you're sitting on a bench or at the side and the guy makes a compliment. That's fine. I don't really mind that personally. I do, however, mind when they start encroaching on your personal space, like they start walking with you, or they're walking with you and then they try to talk to you, even you're trying your very best to ignore them and at least be polite. because, there are some women that will stand up for themselves and they will just straight embarrass the guy. But, some guys take that very negatively, and then they start to, they might react not so kindly back. So there's that issue. But it's just that this says something about that. I don't know when this became okay, the whole catcall phenomenon. I don't know when that started happening. Usually back in my day, I just remember everybody kept their distance. But it seems like lately, guys are getting very, very aggressive. They're just like, they're trying to encroach. And I'm just wondering, like, when did this all start? When did this all begin? I mean, what did all the guys in the world have a meeting and say, this is our new plan of attack now? Because it seems that the women aren't reacting to us the way we want. So maybe we got to step it up a notch. Is that what happened? You tell me what's going on. What happened, And so I kind of understand that. And there are times, a few weeks ago, the Daily Show, they actually had like a whole clip about it where Jessica Williams had this entire story about how women were getting approached on the street. And some of the things that some men say to them are disgusting. The type of advances that guys make, the suggestions that they make, I can't even repeat them. They're just so gross. It's like, when did this become fine with guys? When did this become okay to say something like that? I've had that happen to me. There was once this guy that made a very lewd comment at me, and I was literally taken aback by it. I was like, who does that? Like, ugh. Whatever happened to a guy just telling you, have a great day, have a nice day? I appreciate that, because that's nice. That's polite. That's from the old school, But then it's like you have these other guys that are just so aggressive. And it's like, who finds that a turn on? Who does that? Who find that? Who thought to themselves, yo, she'll get turned on by this? Who thinks that? What woman did this happen to and she liked it, and all of a sudden guys are like, oh, you gotta try this out? When did this happen? I don't know, but it's kind of creepy. Now I'm looking at the clip of the video, and the woman is really pretty in the 10 hours of walking in NYC as a woman. And it's kind of true. There are times where women, we will have to, like, if we have like a certain route that we take to go somewhere, we usually have to go all the way around to kind of avoid that, because there are days where you just don't need that attention. And there are just times where it's like, ugh, seriously? Even with the whole headphone thing, like, you could just put the headphones in, and yet the guys will just stay there and they'll just keep talking, talk. And at some point, you think, okay, I got these things in, so they'll ignore. So they'll take the hit. Nope. They just keep going. It's like, ugh. Like, yeah. So that's my take on it. I'm just thinking out loud, you guys. Because these cat callers, I mean, I don't have a problem with them. It's when they start to encroach on your space. It's like, if I turn to you and I give you a nod that's appreciative of a thank you for the compliment, enjoy, have a nice day, but then there are these dudes that think, okay, she looked back, so that's an open invitation to do something. That's what I wanted to talk about. Like, because you know how they always say, because, women have this thing now, it's called the resting bitch face, and you just keep to that face. I have that face. We all have that face. I think I've had my resting bitch face since I was maybe 16 years old, where it's like a permanent scowl, especially when I'm walking in the street. And usually that face creeps up when I'm thinking about something, but for some reason it stayed. And yet, there was this phenomenon where guys will just tell you, smile, smile, smile. The thing is that there's such an issue with the whole smiling thing, because if you smile, then some guys will take that as an open invitation to talk to you. And really, a smile could just be a smile. Or some dudes could say, like, what are you crazy? Why are you smiling? So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's always what bugged me about that whole sort of thing when it comes to that. So it's like with the cat calls. I just want to say, if you're a young man and you're within the sound of my voice and you're listening to this, just learn to keep your distance. And because it seems that, a lot of people are going out on a defensive saying, oh, this is feminism at work, we're not supposed to talk to them. They consider this harassment. It is harassment because it encroaches on you, it is bothersome. There's even this new this organization called Holler Back, whose agenda is to this fight against the whole catcall phenomenon that's going on. And they wanted to talk about the video, and on their website they say this is what they said. We regret the unintended racial bias in the editing of the video that overrepresents men of color. Although we appreciate Rob's support, we are committed to showing the complete picture. It is our hope and intention that this video will be the start of a series of to demonstrate that the type of harassment we're concerned about is directed towards women of all races and ethnicities and conducted by an equally diverse population of men. Now, of course, I'm talking about the video itself. The video itself, where it's like a big chunk of the men that were featured were Black and Latino. And it said, well, this is kind of like racist because, you don't see many white guys doing this. Maybe this is just a cultural thing. And the truth is, maybe you're right. Maybe we're wrong. And maybe this is just how they edited the video. Maybe it just so happens that when they were editing the video, they were looking for the most potent and most poignant examples of harassment, and it just so happens that they come from men of color. So that's where I'm thinking. I don't think that the whole featuring the men of color thing was intentional. I just think they were trying to just make that point that a woman can just be walking down the street and then they are just by being in that ether of being around people, they are automatically subjected to an open game to women's situations, to saying anything they want to women. Now, I was talking about with the Daily Show's Jessica Williams explored this in her segment, of course, The Feminist Atmosphere. And in it, she shows her commute to work and gets catcalled by various dudes. She also talks to a room full of women who've experienced their fair share of street harassment. Now, Williams' big point is that street harassment is ubiquitous and it's impossible for women to know how to respond. Now, let me get to that point. You don't know how to respond to it. You're dying if you come off angry, you're seen in one way. And then you might get attacked for that. Like, oh, I'm just trying to pay you a compliment. Well, you don't have to get all upset about it. However, if you respond kindly to it or you ignore it, automatically that seems like it's an invitation for the guy to step up the catcall and maybe become a little bit more aggressive. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do? Because you don't want to come off to a point where you can be attacked physically or get into some sort of situation that you don't need to get into. Or do you just let it go? And you can't let it go, because if you do let it go, that means you kind of open the door for it to keep happening, and it may even get even more and more aggressive, and to the point where, something will happen, and then we'll have to, debate what is the